So today we've got myself, John Kennedy, Head of Solutions, just quickly presenting my parts. We've got David Baggs from the product team who will be showing some product updates from the product team. We've got Luke Vickers here talking about proof of concept versus sandbox, as well as hunt groups versus queues. So what are we discussing today? We have a quick vendor software update, just around, it's more of a vendor update than a software update, but just around hardware. Ideas portal. So David will be running through the ideas portal, the new ideas portal that's coming out externally to all of you as partners, and the new look and feel and the way that we'll be running that. We have the do's and don'ts of hunt groups and call centers that Luke will be running through. We'll also have how to prepare for a sandbox versus a POC, which Luke will also be running through. We'll also have a Q&A as well at the end. We also would welcome you to ask questions during the session as you go along, and we can answer those as well. So just to get us started, a vendor update just around hardware again. With the hardware as such, just make sure you get your orders in as early as possible, because coming into end of financial year, there are so many orders come in, and with stock shortages, it could take quite a long time for you to get that stock in. So over to David for the ideas portal. David, there he is.
Okay, guys. My name's David Baggs, and I'm going to be telling you guys a little bit about our new ideas portal. So we've had a bit of feedback over the last little while about the PRC roadmap tool that we have in place, and some of that feedback has gone into us planning out what we wanted out of an ideas portal and building a vision for how we wanted that to be. So we wanted improved communication, we wanted it to be easier to use, and we wanted to really build a space where you guys as partners could talk to each other as well as to us. So the PRC roadmap tool that we had, it was hard to find where your own ideas were and where things were at with it. It was not easy or intuitive to even provide your ideas to us, and certainly not to get feedback back from us. And so we've built into a tool that goes directly to the road mapping tool that we use in Access4 in the product team, and streamlined everything. So this page here shows you what the new ideas portal homepage looks like. This comes straight natively in Sandbox, so you don't have to log into a different place. You'll see on the side menu at the moment, right down the bottom there's that little light bulb. And if you click on that, it'll take you through to our ideas portal. So here, the first thing you'll see is just all the ideas listed out. On the left-hand side, you can filter to only show your own ideas or things that you voted on. You can also subscribe to ideas if you just want to keep an eye on them, but you're not really at the point where you're wanting to vote for it yet. And you can filter by those. You can filter by categories, which is further down the side. So if you're a finance person and you really only care to weigh in on finance ideas, you can go to that financial section. If you're provisioning, then there are areas for those sorts of things as well. In the top right corner, you can also filter by statuses and sort by how popular an idea is or how new an idea is. And you can vote straight from this page as well. And you'll see here in this one, you get a glimpse of what the statuses are. So once an idea goes onto our roadmap, you can see that on the page there as well. And we still leave it there for voting, because some ideas we just know straight away that that's something that we definitely want to implement. So we'll pop it on the roadmap, but we'll still leave it available to be voted on, so that we can get an idea of partner sentiment around it. But the big thing is you can add a new idea. So we've added a little bit more input requirements for for the ideas in terms of the form that you fill in. Most of it is optional. So the only thing we need you to provide us is the name of the idea and the actual idea itself. As you start typing your first, the name of your idea, it will search the pool of ideas for things that have similar keywords or things in the title, and then present them to you and sort of say, hey, we know you've got an idea here about a dunning process. There are a couple of ideas about a dunning process already. If you want to save yourself some time, maybe have a look at these ideas and they might be what you're looking for. Otherwise, we've made it optional to provide us with a product or platform. So if you've got a problem that's really only affecting WebEx or Teams, you can let us know that. If you're trying to bring some functionality that exists in one area into another. The categories speak back to the filtering abilities. So if you want to get it in front of people that do financials, that's a good way to do it. And then the main meat of the message is to add your details. There's an area you can attach files. We really love getting screenshots and things, and really encourage you to really flesh out. I don't think we've put in a character limit, so as much detail as you want to give us, we'll take. And then there are some tags there as well. We've also made it, a lot of the strides that we've taken are about improving your interactivity once the idea is out there. So once you click on one of those votes from the homepage, you can see this area. You'll see this one I've already voted on. Otherwise, that button on the left would give you the option to vote. Because this is my idea or one that I've submitted into the pool, there is an edit idea function up the top. So if you've put in a typo or something and you notice it after the fact, you can go in and make the adjustments. But the big thing is that you can now comment and vote on ideas. So this idea is one that I brought across from the PRC roadmap. So I've just added in that it already had one like coming in. But yeah, we can add comments and you can have your feedback and ask clarifying questions, and really communicate amongst yourselves as well as with us about this idea and sort of iterate on an idea inside there. And then once we're ready, it takes us like 2 clicks and we can put that into the roadmap and it goes straight into our backlog ready for prioritization.
Great, thanks, David. Thank you for the ideas portal. I recommend everyone jump on, have a look. If you have any ideas, David, what date is that launching?
It's launching. We live tomorrow morning.
Live tomorrow morning. All right. Cool. So I would recommend that everyone get in, have a look. If you have any ideas, please jump on, put those ideas in. You might find that there are ideas that you're already thinking of in your head, and you can vote for an idea that's already there and make some comments as well. So thanks, David, and the product team for that ideas portal.
All right, thank you.
Now handing over to Luke with what are the differences between POC versus a sandbox?
The main difference between the two is one allows you to make outbound phone calls. That is the proof of concept, and the sandbox is for inbound purposes. So there are time limits, of course, for both of them. So 90 days being for the sandbox. For this, if you need to extend it for, maybe project is being delayed due to something that's beyond your control, you do have the option to do an extension request by actioning that directly on the enterprise, and that'll be then approved by your PGM at the discretion as to what it is. Licenses on the sandbox. So none of the licenses are actually charged on Sandbox until it is expired. And also, when the time is approaching, you will be sent reminder notices also that the Sandbox, much like the proof of concept, is going to be expiring. It is a good idea to keep on top of this because once it goes live, the charges do start from that point. In the last 3 days, the users will be able to start making outbound calls, and this is when you should be doing your last-minute training, getting the customer, doing all the going through and making sure everything's okay, as it will be, the charges will start from that date. Take note, if you are porting services in, you still will be restricted from calling those numbers directly from your own enterprise to this service during that time, mainly because we, during the porting process, if we provision the numbers on a service and another access for customer calls that customer or yourself, it may route to a service that's not yet live for interaction. So if you do need to do inbound call testing, make sure you put a dummy DID on there, or better yet, make a dummy service with inside there and do some emulation testing in there as well. On the proof of concept side, you are allowed to use a subset of BroadSoft standard user services. The things that are excluded from this, of course, are things like your call recording and tolling and other specialized services. You can make inbound and outbound calls. Just as I said, the same portal conditions apply to the proof of concept. However, calls outbound will be charged at pay-as-you-go. So this is to prevent people, spinning up a proof of concept and then flooding it with calls and have no intention of making that become a reality on the service. Or with the registration, proof of concept, yes, does need to be registered as an opportunity and created from the opportunity list, which most people should be already aware of. However, Sandbox does allow you to go directly into creation. If you do forget to create the service via the registered opportunity, charges of the service would be applied as per normal. Now, tip and trick here, mainly around during the sales cycle, try to get a copy of the customer's phone bill as soon as you possibly can. By doing this, you can start doing the number validation before the sale has been approved, and during that time, the number validation should come back and have almost either any issues found early, rather than appearing that you've been sitting with the order for 15 business days without any real update of what's going on. And in this way, you should be able to get the customer onto your book sooner. So if you take 4 weeks to get the sale over the line, and then you submit the porting, you get 15 business days waiting for the porting to be approved or validated, and then you've got a booking date. So that makes a very long timeline from the start to the end. By getting the copy to bill and submitting the port against that enterprise as soon as possible, should see services come onto your books a lot sooner than before.
Okay, we have one question. Are third-party licenses such as iCall also not charged? I believe that's in the Sandbox.
So charges should not. I'll have to double clarify, and that's on Sandbox for tolling. Maybe one of our people can jump in and maybe answer that question. Do you want to hunt around while I go on?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so the do's and don'ts of hunt groups and call centers. So the focus of this isn't necessarily about for support, provisioning. These sort of things are also geared towards salespeople who may be in charge of doing their own scope for the customer, and also a little bit of an education piece and setting the expectations for your customer before going live onto the service, and giving your customer a better experience, not only just for them, but also the customers calling their businesses. All right, the first focus is hunt groups. Okay, so just to focus on the distribution groups of regular, circular, and uniform. Now, we do see people where they want to have multiple hunt groups floating one onto the other, like this in this sort of style. It's always an idea to make sure that when you do this sort of scenario, you don't have the same users in the first group and the second group continuously, because what will happen is when a call comes in, if we look at the first hunt group, if they're already on the call, and maybe we've already got another call and go from call waiting, that hunt group will be considered busy because that user cannot take any more calls. So in that case, you need to make sure, of course, that your call forward busy is turned on to go to the next setting. And then that second group can then start taking the calls. If we look at, say, the second hunt group, when a call comes in for regular, circular, or uniform, and then it's expired all the users within that particular group, the busy condition is then kicked in to then kick it over to the next service. So please always ensure that this has been done, because what you'll find is if it's not configured, the call will be dropped and won't go natively to the voicemail. This is also the same condition if you're using Teams user services, whether it be for basic or enhanced. that sort of condition. And also make sure the voicemail of those users within those particular groups is switched off on the team side to prevent calls going unnecessarily to Joe Blogg's voicemail. For the timeout settings, be conscious of how you set this. I recommend not going below 2 rings, which basically equates roughly to about 12 seconds per person. Because anything below that, if you've got like a slow signal or your PC is still catching up, going back and forth, what you'll find is they'll say, oh, it only rang for half a ring, then it disappeared. And then they'll end up calling your service desk and support teams and, causing a bit of drama about it only rang for a short amount of time. Try to do 12 seconds above. If it's a large group or they're having persistent issues due to timing, maybe increase that to 18. Also be conscious of when you're doing the call forward no answer from one group to another group, if a call is not detected as answered from the incoming carrier, like calling from Telstra, Optus, or whatever it may be, if that equates for 2 minutes of ringback, the call will be disconnected via the intercarrier. I can go to the next one, John, thank you. Okay, next thing, simultaneous ring. So a lot of people love the idea, rings everyone in the office. Sounds like a fantastic idea. Unfortunately, it does come with other issues. Some of the assumptions people that will run through is someone else will pick up the phone. And what will happen is eventually the calls will time out and then go to voicemail, and then people want to get a voicemail. I've got all these resources, but everyone just went, oh, someone else is going to pick up the call. The other issue is sim ring. Let's assume we got the first half of the users on the left-hand side working in the office, user 4 is working from home, and you get other couple of users are working in maybe another location. When the call comes in and a seamless ring, it's ringing all locations. Let's say user 3 is a very quick person, picks up the call, but user 7 only gets half a ring, picks it up, and there's no one there. And then they start thinking, oh, there's a phone fault, there's no audio, there's no one there. Again, they're going to end up calling your service desk saying, oh, I've got my end user saying, they've got to pick it up, there's no one home, no audio. And then they start calling your team unnecessarily, causing dramas for calls or phantom calls. The other issue with SimRing, if let's just say everyone's gone off to lunch and user 1 is the only one in the office and the other phones are ringing, when they hang up the phone, take note, it's not going to start ringing their phone again because the calls from a hunt group are only offered once, unlike a call center, which I'll cover a little bit later on. So in this case, maybe look at a second group, try to do SimRing maybe in a layered group, so between one and the other, and always make sure if you are doing an overlay between one group and another group with simultaneous, that you do have different users. If you could go to the next slide for me. All right. So in the recommended settings, what we recommend is, as I've started to allude to, in your first group, have say like user 1, 2 in the first one, and in the event that another call comes in directly whilst the first call has been offered, that we have a call forward busy enabled to go directly to the second hunt group. Because if the first 2 phones are ringing from the first call and the second call comes in shortly after, this will happen generally like morning periods, that call would be rejected. So without a call forward busy being enabled, that call would drop off. They would call back and say, I called in and I had called and get through, complain, yada, and then call for your desk and asking what's going on the call. Make sure you have call for busy enabled on the first hunt group, otherwise calls will basically vanish. As you can see on the right-hand side, the recommended settings for hunt groups and simultaneous ring to avoid these situations. Any questions before we proceed with this one? Because there might be a few.
None at the moment.
Right. Okay. We can proceed over to the next one then. All right, moving on to call centers. Yeah, we can get the next one, that's fine. Okay. When a call comes in a call center, this is generally what is happening. A call comes in, when the call goes and looks for the available agent, does it play an entrance message, welcome to Access 4. And during that time, while the call is attempting to connect to an available agent, it is going through a variety of different options. So is the agent available? Is there a comfort message due to be played? Have they pressed a key to escape the queue and leave a voicemail? Do I need to play an announcement for the position? or as a maximum time elapsed before overflow. So if we're looking at this particular slide, we're talking about play ringing when offering call. So what's a scenario here? I'm calling from the outside world. I call into a queue and there's an agent available and I'm just getting constant ring back. Now, let's assume that we've got, say, maybe 5 agents in this queue and we've got a bounce setting of maybe 3 rings. So 3 rings, as we know, would equate to roughly about 18 seconds times by 5. That's a lot of ringing. Whilst you might have the music and hold enabled, whilst the agent is available, whilst there are agents available to pick up the call, it will continually ring. So from an incoming caller's perspective, you'd wait probably maybe 20 seconds at most before you think there's no one there and I'll hang up. Again, they might call back in, they'll tell that particular person I've called before, it was constantly ringing, and then they call you and say, hey, there's an issue going on here. So to avoid this, when you're doing the setup, there'll be an option in there, play ringing when offering call. Set this to no. So this way, the person, when they come in, if they are waiting to be answered, they'll get music rather than their consistent music playback. We do realise you are going to have some customers who have probably never had a call queue before. One of the things you could be using is this sort of scenario, give them what it's like to be the incoming person to their business. Okay, we can go to the next one.
Just before you do the next one, just a question on the last set of slides.
Yep.
What would be your counter argument to, we want simultaneous rings so people aren't sitting there waiting for a call for so long?
Well, it's one of those things you've got to sort of educate. What I typically would avoid simultaneous ring, mainly because you've got the appearance it's going to be answered sooner. You could, if they do want that sort of scenario, you could use like a group pickup sort of scenario if they're where the phone is ringing. So from WebEx, you do get that call notification that a call has been offered to, say like John for support escalations or whatever it may be, where you could click on that and then take that call on behalf, same as a physical phone. But when it comes to resources, this is a little bit about you kind of need to go back to the customer and get them to sort of maybe manage their staff more so.
We have another one. Can these recommendations be recommended by SaaSboss when sending up hunt groups like a pop-up screen?
I think you might find that in the ideas portal as a part of the changes to the setup coming forward. Okay, so the entrance message, such as important here. So if the call came via like an IVR, press 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then you go off there from there to a queue, you'll be placed into a music and they're already aware of who they're called. But you'll find some businesses, they don't want to put an entrance message from the outside world. Now, if you don't supply an entrance message, you're going to call in and you're going to go directly to music on hold. It's going to be very confusing for the customer as to is the phone system faulty? What's going on here? Did I call the right business? Especially if it was just default music. Get them to provide something very simple. It doesn't have to be something long, just something simple. Welcome, business name, and done. If you're struggling to get that off the business themselves without recording, remember you can always use the managed announcements to do the recording on their behalf. And there's many text-to-speech sort of arrangements as well if you don't want to publicise your own voice. Okay, we're good for the next one. Okay, next one, cover message. So cover message comes with 2 portions. Cover message is played at an interval, but this is also where we play the announcement if you wish to escape the queue. In which case, you need to make sure that you've got your call forward busy destination pre-configured. Otherwise, when they press it, the call will go to nowhere and terminate the call. With the message, try to encourage it to be short and sweet, because the cover message can be played at intervals. And if you've got it set at 30 seconds and your message is 15 seconds, again, walk your customer through what it's like to be the incoming caller to have that message constantly on loop every 15 seconds, because the timer actually starts from the time the first message was played before it actually starts the next repeat of that message. Call waiting on agent. Now, I've no doubt there's a lot of you guys who may be in a support sort of area that have come to join us today. Basically, if you're in a support position, you already know that there is other people waiting to be answered. The last thing you need is something beeping in your ear telling you there's another call, making it very interrupting. In most cases, call waiting should be switched off. So that way you can actually gauge, treat that call as it sits with you. Also, if you've got call waiting, it can also inflate your call statistics with bounce calls, because if you're the only person in that queue, what will happen is if it comes back to you every 18 seconds, it's going to count to you as a bounce call in your statistic in like iCalls week or even a broadwork supervisor, basically inflating the amount of calls against that user and probably downgrading their KPI that they're reporting on. Go to the next one. Appears that one was copied twice. Let's go to the next one. Okay, next thing is overflowing to a queue. Now, this is where you want to maybe have team A, like a triage queue, and then maybe have your escalations queue in the next one. We do see people doing this quite regularly because that's the way they would like to operate. But there is a setting you need to be mindful of. When a call is sitting in the queue for 60 seconds and then you overflow to the next one, the timer of the call is still continuing of that call. So if your next one is set to 60 seconds for overflow once again to voicemail, we'll actually bypass the second queue altogether and go directly to voicemail. Plus, not the great experience. So when you're configuring the overflow on the second queue, ensure that you set it to the length of time of that queue plus the previous one. Or alternatively, you can reset the timer of that call. But if you're trying to report on what was the longest waiting call overall for the previous day, you're going to have 60 seconds and 60 seconds. It looks great, but the actual fact is the customer's probably waiting a lot longer than that. Okay, yeah, next one. All right, this is very simple. So imagine yourself this: you're waiting in line to go buy a ticket or go buy a lunch. You're sitting in this queue for 60 seconds, and then you and then someone says, "Oh, come over here. Come wait in this queue. It's going to be a bit better." So we've done the reset because we need to do the loop. Now you're waiting for 60 seconds in this queue, and then we go back to the first one. Quite potentially, this customer who called in the queue will never actually reach the front because every 60 seconds they're getting plucked out and dumped into the next one, and then back into the first one over and over again. Now, have a customer who says, "Oh, after 10 minutes, I want to go to voicemail." Well, here what we are saying is go into a loop. We're not going to get off this mouse wheel, and we're going to be stuck there forever, basically in the queue until magically I get to the front of that queue. I have seen this done quite a few times, and where they, they're reporting calls have been in queue forever and wait times are all over the shop. This is really not an ideal solution. Try to educate your customer away from it, or try to work out what they're trying to achieve, or potentially make a third queue with people from the first one and the second one combined as the third before it overflows to voicemail. Recommendations: just don't do it. Next one. All right, to our famous simultaneous calling. So let's go through the scenario here. We've got a call that comes into here and we go to 7 agents. We've now reported there's been 7 calls being offered. Then we're saying we've got the bounce settings where we want to re-offer the call, because if we don't do it, the call doesn't get re-offered, like the hunt group. So you do need to configure this. But if we are offering a call every 18 seconds, this is going to inflate the records very, very quick. Now you can see I've taken a snapshot here of one particular instance where we have 61,000 calls for one day. What happened in this sort of scenario? This is where they had a queue simultaneous call with one lot of agents, and then another one, and then another one was simultaneous, and then they had to bounce on the last one. Overall, yes, their pickup time was around about 6 seconds, but because of the frequency they were bouncing the calls, their call statistic was way through the roof. They were trying to work out how many calls really did come in, how many were actually answered and missed. There was no way to actually trace out who was actually doing the job and who was rejecting the calls. Simultaneous calling on a call group is not ideal. If they want to report on who's answering the calls, best way to go about it, use the other methods such as uniform. Look for the person who's waiting the longest, as they should be available to then take the call, and then do skip to next agent from there. If they're worried about, it might take forever to get through, say, all those users, well, as the call comes through, yes, it could be longer in the first round, but if people are not answering the call, by default, if they get offered the call 3 times in a row and they don't score, they will be forced to be unavailable, which is reportable off. If they wanted to go even more stringent, you can go down to 1 ring, you miss 1 call, you're out of the queue. So this means when the second call comes through, instead of going through all the agents who aren't taking a call, it goes to the first agent who's set available to then take the call. Try to use this. This gives a bit better experience on not only the reporting, but also will alleviate some of your stress on trying to explain why there's 61,000 bounced calls when there's only about 900 odd calls a day. All right, voicemail. So I wouldn't really call voicemail being a solution. The reason I'm saying this is there's a lot of effort that goes into trying to get a call, not only to come into the business, but also for the conversion rate. So if the customer says, look, I'm quite happy for the calls to go to voicemail, like for a hunt group, for example, or a call center, ask them, how much time did you spend with your marketing staff versus with your meeting times and your marketing budget and all the other bits to result that in voicemail? Are they doing if they were doing 100% close rate, fantastic, well done. I think probably everyone given clap for doing 100% conversion rate on the sale. But for this, what is the cost per lead to actually lose to voicemail? There are many different alternatives that we can provide to the customer to be able to work with this. So maybe the reason I don't want people to wait in queue for long because they're thinking about the customer experience. Maybe you look at a UJET solution where you can actually have call back in queue. Couple of other things, maybe the calls are more, say, like for accounts where they're paying maybe the bills on every second Thursday, they get a large influx of calls. Again, potentially maybe look at a UJET solution with the payment gateway. So that way, rather than having someone answering all those calls to take the payment, they can use an automated system and then alleviate their call queues as well. There's many different ways we can actually alleviate calls waiting in queue rather than being the end solution sent to voicemail.
All right, thanks, Luke. Any more questions before I finish off? It appears not. All right, so just a quick update on the Telstra CLA update. No update as yet. I'll keep bringing this up every Access the Text until we have an update. But yeah, at the moment, we don't have an update. So again, they'll give us 30 days notice once they alert the industry. So we'll get that 30 days notice. And once we know that, well, there will be messages come out from the porting team, but I'll also alert you in the Access the Text as well. Last and not least, we have the Access 4 Roadshow. We're going on the road. So we've got Melbourne on the Tuesday, the 24th of May here at our new office in Richmond. We've got Brisbane at the Capri by Fraser on the Thursday, the 26th of May. And we've also got the Sydney Hilton on the Wednesday, the 1st of June. So you can get there and register today at info.access4.com/roadshows. If you are receiving any emails from us, they're also on our signatures. That's the word I'm looking for. So if we have no further questions, then we are completed. So I'll give you a minute or two. Okay, we've got a question. Any idea when the Yealink WH6X handset are going to have headset control for WebEx?
That would be a question for our engineering team.
We will have to find out about that for you, Michael, and get back to you because we are not sure. So we'll speak to them and find out.
Email a copy of this PowerPoint. Yep.
Yeah, we can probably do that. We do have to put the recording on our YouTube channel as well, so that is also there for further notice. What are any other questions? No, that's the only question. I'll give you half a minute more, guys and ladies and days. We'll go from there. Jasmine, do you have the link to the YouTube channel that you can pop in the chat so that everyone can access it?
Yeah, no stress. I'll pop that in now.
Cool, that'd be great. So we'll get that there, Kat, from Jasmina in the chat. So please, if, with the YouTube channel, please subscribe. We have multiple items there, access the execs and a few other items, as well as access the text. Any webinars we do actually go up on the YouTube channel as well.
So thank you for joining us today, and thanks for the questions and your time.
Yes, thank you very much all for your time. Enjoy your month, and we'll see you next month.